Khazan, whatever the hell it may be, the Berserker, is out tomorrow with the free demo out right now, and albeit not talking about this game at all on my channel so far, it is one in the background I've been extremely excited about for a number of different reasons. Number one, I'm an extremely big Souls fan. Any Souls-like game, I pretty much started this channel, at least more recently when I started the channel and been consistent with it. I was playing Black Myth Wukong on stream, releasing videos and things about that game just in general. Absolutely love that game. Probably my favorite game of last year. I've played the original Lords of the Fallen and the new remake that I did not like of Lords of the Fallen. I played Pinocchio Souls. We all know that game. On top of that, I've played every single actual FromSoft Souls game as well, all the way back to Demon Souls, all the way through the most recent Elden Ring DLC, with Bloodborne being my favorite single-player game of all time. And number two, because even in a vacuum, this game, in my opinion, looks really good. And now with the reviews are out, we finally have seen what people are starting to say about the actual full game, not just the demo that you can obviously play a very small segment of the game for free. So far, we've actually heard some really damn good things about the game, considering what I kind of expected and what I expect with most Souls games that try to kind of emulate FromSoft's formula, where they come out, they look really good, but when it actually comes to the gameplay and it comes to the level design, which seems easy, but it's very hard to actually execute on, they come out and they're not very good. Now, in recent times, we've gotten some really good ones. Obviously, I mentioned Pinocchio Souls, for example. That was an incredible game. On top of that, we have gotten things like Black Myth Wukong that wasn't necessarily a Souls-like, but had a lot of Souls-like elements. You obviously have the Neo games. Even the first Neo, I think, was the one that did it the best, but there's a ton of other flops as well. In my opinion, Lords of the Fallen was one of those flops that could have been a million times better than it was without some of the things that they tried to do differently that they just couldn't execute on the same formula with. But interestingly enough, and what I think is an actually kind of a good thing, this game doesn't necessarily try to do anything super differently than the FromSoft Souls games or other Souls games that have emulated those. It really just has a couple of differences here, with the number one being the anime art style, which is, again, a stylistic change and not necessarily gameplay-wise a huge departure from what Souls games are known for. It is published by Nexon, which tends to have a lot of those anime art style games. Being published by Nexon is also a huge red flag for myself and a lot of other people, but it doesn't seem like that was to this game's detriment in any way, at least from what we've heard and what we've seen. And then on top of that, it is part of the Dungeon Fighter franchise and series, so it does make sense it has that anime art style. And I honestly really like the anime style that they went with here. My name is Straw Hat Mikey, for example. I literally have anime references in my name for my YouTube channel. Huge fan of One Piece, so I obviously am going to like that anime art style more than other people, because I know a lot of other people don't like it, but it's not so kind of ingrained in that style that it completely takes away from that Souls and kind of dark fantasy experience either. It definitely looks like it still has a lot of those elements there as well, combined with the stylistic choice to be a little bit more anime. And on top of this, another difference is that you are able to freely switch between 3 different weapons, which you can obviously upgrade both the weapons and armor with different rarities, so kind of more like an RPG upgrade system there, not necessarily something like Elden Ring, for example, where just different weapons are different weapons. This is going to have, obviously, better weapons than other ones. Kind of if you played Neo, for example, that one had better gear that you could equip, even though it was technically the same type of weapon. But the different weapons here are a spear, which you can actually throw the spear as well using some charges in the middle of your screen. You have a gigantic greatsword that literally looks like Guts from Berserk, which I'm assuming there was a lot of inspiration here specifically for what that looked like with the main character of the game. And then on top of that as well, you have a kind of dual weapon. You have one hand, you have a smaller sword, and on the other hand, you have a smaller axe, and then that's going to be your extremely quick attack. So you're going to have a difference of playstyle versus what you like, or I'm assuming what works better on some enemies and some bosses versus others, where if you like that very slow swinging greatsword type of gameplay style, you'll have that. If you like the quick melee attacks up close, you will also have those weapons. And then if you want to use the spear for throwing it, or also just doing more kind of ranged attacks but still being in that melee range, you're going to have the spear to do that as well. And all of those gameplay styles, again, I'm assuming are going to complement or be worse against different bosses, or what you honestly just enjoy yourself as a player. But that's that's obviously what I have seen and what I feel about the game so far and how I think it's going to be. Now, obviously, the reviews just came out for this game, so that's what I really want to dive into and talk about. What are other people saying about this game so far, so you can get a good perception on if it's a game you're going to want to play or if it's a good game in general. But before we get into it, thank you guys so much for over 1,000 subscribers, on the road to 1,200 subscribers now, so I really appreciate the support. If you are new to the channel, you like gaming news, gaming reviews for RPGs and other games I'm just interested in general, and you like the video you see here, please like and subscribe. Now let's get into these reviews. Now to start off, I just want to go through quickly the aggregated score here on Metacritic. I will say, like I say in all of my videos, these scores seem to usually be inflated because a lot of these different publications and journalists tend to give these games higher scores so they can keep getting, obviously, review copies of these games before they come out, to keep getting search traffic and to keep paying their people, getting ads on their site, etc. Makes sense. However, I do think Souls games, just in general, are harder to get a good score. Number one, they're super difficult, so they can be frustrating for a lot of people if they're not, always playing Souls games and kind of familiar with the genre. Now, number two, all games that are Souls games are going to be getting compared to the FromSoft Souls games, which are pretty much all insanely incredible games, some of them absolute masterpieces. Now, starting off with just the positive reviews, a lot of these are saying it's probably one of the best non-From Software Souls-likes that's been created. Now, obviously, this one is saying Neopal has done what so many have tried to do in the past. If it's not on your map, then you need a new map. Basically saying so many people have tried to emulate the greatness of From Software, and they are pretty close to being there, or there, at least with this game specifically. Masterclass in action combat, thrilling boss fights, and diverse level design, and tight mechanics that rivals the genre's best. Crowded Soulsborne-inspired genre by delivering relentless, weighty combat and immersive world building, because obviously every game is trying to be a Souls-like or has those elements now because of how good From Software has done with their specific formula over the last few years. Has a massive focus on rewarding players' perseverance, whatever their skill level. Now, this is something all Souls games do very well. And then one that I really wanted to point out here also was that it may be the best non-From Software Souls-like yet. Its anime-inspired visuals, soaring orchestration, and frenetic combat make for an unforgetting experience. It's also a very brutal personal story and rich world building. Now, we'll have to see about that. I have actually heard that the storyline isn't so great in this game specifically, but taking a look at some of the mixed reviews, solid Souls-like that just doesn't do anything special. Even though the developers do a good job creating skill trees to match each weapon, there's a serious lack of variety when it comes to arsenal and attributes. That could be very true. As long as the combat's good, at least in my opinion, I think it can usually pull people through some of these games because of how interesting a lot of the bosses could potentially be. Focuses on dark anime, high difficulty, and playful freedom, but the WoW effect fails to materialize. Now, this is something, again, we just saw in the one previous to this, that it is a good game, but it's not anything that you're going to look back on and be like, this is absolutely insane. It's just kind of the middle of the pack Souls game that does things well, but doesn't do things incredibly, and that's what a lot of these mixed reviews are saying. But overall, an 80 is pretty damn good, especially in my opinion for a Souls game, like I mentioned, that is going to get compared to things like the FromSoft games or even Nioh, which I think are still to this day the greatest non-From Software Souls games ever. Maybe other than Black Myth Wukong, but it's hard to kind of always put that in the same category. But now let's get into what content creators are saying about the game, because on that side of things, that's really what is exciting me here as well, because it seems to be a lot more positive in terms of what content creators are feeling about it versus what critics are feeling about it. And honestly, that also generally tends to be the way for a lot of Soul games. Not all of them, but a decent amount of them.
I've had a little bit of faith in this project based on the fact that it looks extremely high effort, and it is. It's the real deal. This game comes off like it was made from old pros, despite the fact that this is the first attempt by Nexon to do this, to do a Souls-like. This is a highly polished game. It feels great to play. The difficulty is intense in a way that feels right, might I add. If you're into Souls-likes, I think you will find something to like here. Souls-like. Now, I'm not saying the game's perfect or anything. There's some issues that I do want to get into later, but they absolutely nailed the most important part of making one of these games, and it's the controls.
Probably the most fun I've had with a Souls game in a really long time. Easily, I think the last time I had this much fun with combat was, like I said, either Nioh 2 or Sekiro, because the combat here is just, it's good. It's really good. But either way, we're going to wrap things up there. Yeah, there's not much else to be said. I love this game. Honestly, my biggest decision right now is whether I want to do a walkthrough or get good guides, but I had an absolute blast with this. I can't wait to jump back in and play through it, whether it's going to be New Game Plus or a flesh playthrough with a different weapon.
So has the game lived up to the hype in my eyes? I would say absolutely yes. The game has everything I expected and wanted it to have. A dramatic and slightly edgy revenge story, visceral combat that feels like a fast-paced expanded version of Sekiro, and a fantastic art style with cell shading to give it that manhwa anime aesthetic. Despite having interesting characters who make hardly any appearance and the lack of character development from Khazan and Blade Phantom, I still found myself enjoying the story for its plot-driven narrative, serving as an incentive enough to keep pushing forward through all the tough obstacles you face in the game. The excellent technical and visual aspects carry the main story with fantastic boss designs and effects that make climactic moments feel exceptionally dramatic. These bosses are also the most fun content the game has to offer, which was the main thing I was looking for in Khazan. It's just a shame that customization and thus replayability are slightly lacking, since I always found myself craving to spend more time in the crevice tinkering with my build, but I'm sure this could be expanded upon in future titles or maybe even a DLC.
So as you guys can see, definitely a more positive sentiment from content creators that is getting echoed by more reviews that I didn't show here as well. You can go on YouTube and pretty much look at all of them. They're very similar to each other on what a lot of people think is very good about the game and what's not. The combat specifically, even having Sekiro mentioned anywhere in terms of combat when talking about a different game is a huge positive for that game, because that's one of the greatest combat systems, at least in my opinion, and a lot of others as well, of all time. Now, there are some negatives here. Supposedly, the story isn't the greatest ever, but it is enough to get you through the game and to fight these very well-designed, incredible bosses that you're going to be fighting. On top of that, apparently there's not a ton of build customization, but there are really good skill trees here to kind of customize out what you like best about your weapons. That plus you can apparently just reset these at any time and try pretty much anything out. That's great as well. And altogether, what a lot of people are saying, it is one of the best non-FromSoft Souls game, at least in a very long time, since Nioh. I would love to hear down below in the comments if you guys are really excited for this game. Are you in the Souls community? Have you heard about this game and gotten excited about it like the rest of the Souls community like a year ago when it was really announced? On top of that, if you're not in the Souls community, is this something that you're interested in playing? Why or why not? Have you guys played the demo? Did you enjoy it? Why or why not? I would love to hear all of that down below in the comments. And again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you did like what you see here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Assassin's Creed First Impressions coming soon. Peace.